Today we are going to talk about a romance film called Spread from 2009. The film begins with a demonstration of Nicky leaving an expensive house. The thought that he is very handsome runs through his head. From his very first day in Los Angeles, he dreamed of being surrounded by women, and he did just that. That night, Nicky walks into a nightclub and runs into his future victim, Samantha. At first, she pretends not to want to talk to him, but Nicky was much more convincing. A new day comes and Samantha has to go to work, but Nicky pretends to still be asleep. To his surprise, she doesn't kick him out, but rather gives him her card to buy himself some food. While she's at work, he swims in the pool and tries to cook dinner. When she returns home, he does his best to make Samantha feel like a queen. When asked what he does for a living, Nicky replies that he is not working yet. For the next few days, everything repeats itself, but she is called to another city. Nicky manages to convince Samantha that he should stay home. It's all for the sake of a cool party to which Harry's best friend has been invited. Their conversation is interrupted by their ex-girlfriend, Helen. Nicky is worried that she will realize that this house is not his, and so he asks Harry to take her away from here. They are interrupted again, but this time by Christina, and she asks to see the house. Nicky takes advantage of this. Later, the two friends are alone, and Nicky offers to sleep in the next room. A new day comes, and Nicky invites her friend Emily to visit, who knows perfectly well what a manipulator and liar he is. But even with this knowledge, the show is still on. She proposes to start a serious relationship, but Nicky refuses and just takes her to a motel. He does not yet suspect that Samantha has returned home ahead of schedule, and she catches him in the middle of something interesting. They start a fight, but Nicky manages to convince her to keep the relationship alive. While she is at work, Nicky goes to a cafe. Heather works there, but she's not like the others and rejects his flirtatious attempts. The guy doesn't want to stop, so he doesn't pay the bill and leaves his phone number just in case. Heather quickly finds him and orders him to pay the bill. Nicky offers to show him the house, but he refuses. For the next few days, he can't stop thinking about Heather, which makes Samantha fade into the background. He comes up with an idea to ask his friend to help. He will pretend to be a rich businessman and Harry will be his assistant. When she notices his expensive car, she only tells him that he is going to get a ticket for parking in the wrong place. Nicky runs out of the cafe and does everything she can to avoid getting a ticket, but obviously it doesn't work. But Heather gives him her phone number. That evening, Nicky tries to call Heather, which Samantha can see perfectly well. A new day dawns. Harry advises her to forget the waitress, but Nicky can't stop until she gets her way. The same day, Heather calls Nicky back and invites him to dinner. During dinner, the girl received a phone call and had to leave. Not understanding what it was, Nicky asks for an explanation, but Heather just drives away. Samantha accuses Nicky of seeing someone, and if he denies it, she asks him to take her to the hospital and pick her up the next day. After taking his friend to the hospital, Nicky returns to the cafe but finds that Heather no longer works there. When he returns home, he finds her swimming in the pool. She apologizes for having to leave, but her brother has a rare disease and needed help. It's a new day. Nicky takes Heather's key to park her car. To his surprise, he sees a pair of cigars. He is sure that they belong to her boyfriend, so he orders her to get out. Arriving at the hospital, the doctor informs her that she needs to rest after the surgery. A few days later, Samantha notices that Nicky has stopped answering her calls. She has to break off the relationship. Before she leaves, his phone rings, and an angry Samantha throws it into the water. The homeless Nicky tries to enlist Harry's support, but after their quarrel, he is not going to open the door. Emily is also not eager to let a manipulator into her home. In a desperate situation, she calls Harry and apologizes. He suggests meeting at the club. There, he meets Sean. Seeing how they interact with the girls, Nicky begins to feel uncomfortable and tries to stand up for them. Eventually, Nicky is kicked out. Harry says that these girls are just dancers, to which Nicky replies that he shouldn't treat women like that. Harry calls this hypocritical. In search of a new home, Nicky tries to sneak into a party but is quickly kicked out. A new day dawns. Having collected the last of his money, he comes to the cheapest hotel. This life does not suit him, so he has to come to the most expensive hotel and choose his new victim. To his surprise, Heather is staying there. She blames the guy for his tastes, forcing Nicky to admit that he has no money for housing or food, and this is the only chance to feel like a human being. Suddenly, Heather talks about Nicky's current goal, showing that she is just like him. A little later, she invites him to her house, but he should take into account the fact that she has a not-so-good neighbor, but she never leaves her room. She also admits that she broke off relations with the owner of the expensive car she was driving, and now she has a much more serious goal. The duo starts working as a team. Nicky agrees to help her find a new victim for a share of the proceeds. In the evening, a show takes place and they start dating. After eating an expensive meal, Heather takes a piece of foil and asks to chew it with the food. Under this pretext, the duo refuses to pay. Although their relationship grows stronger every day, Heather continues to earn money, much to Nikki's dismay. While he was sleeping, she receives a package filled with rose petals. Nikki notices her in a rather depressed state, and when asked what happened, she replies that she broke off the wedding. Nikki doesn't understand why she didn't say anything. She tells him that her fiancé was a very rich man who owns a company in New York, but Nikki is much more important to her. Nikki asks her if her feelings are real or if it's all part of the performance. Heather calls her feelings sincere because she chose him, even though Nikki has no money. Nikki sees this as an insult, which is why he goes to a cafe where he refuses all offers, as he wants to start a new life with Heather. Before returning home, he finds a newspaper with job postings. There was a note on the table that Heather needed to return to New York and solve a couple of issues. Nikki immediately tries to call her, but no one answers the phone. A new day comes. He runs into his old friend. Seeing that she is drunk, he offers to give her a ride home, when suddenly the phone rings with a call from Heather. She swears that she didn't go to her ex-boyfriend's house, but then she hears a woman's voice. Nikki tries to explain that he was just trying to help a friend, but Heather thinks he's back at his old job, so she hangs up the phone. Back at Heather's apartment, he tries to talk to her roommate, who offers to fly him to New York to propose to Heather. But here's the problem. Nikki doesn't have any money, and Harry, who heard his story, helps him with this. Upon arrival in the city, Nikki goes to the fiancé's address. The door of the apartment is opened by Heather. Nikki is well aware that she is offended and swears that nothing happened. She needs to realize that her life is not what she dreams of. Money doesn't bring happiness, but Heather refuses to go back. Nikki pulls out a ring, showing that he is ready for more, but Heather replies that she is already married. Just then, Will enters the room. Heather pretends that Nikki is just a delivery boy. The man gives Nikki a couple of dollars, and he leaves, heartbroken. Upon returning to Los Angeles, he intends to fix his life by working many jobs. One of the orders was to Samantha's house, who had already found a replacement for him. To save money, he convinced Harry to let him stay with him. And although he used to hate his frogs, now he is happy to feed them.